The felon impeached again, blocking the Epstein files? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, liking the videos, hitting that thumbs up, and leaving a comment of more than 7 words really does help the algorithm spread the video to more people. So for that, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, so Tuesday, the House is going to vote on whether to release the Epstein files. This is forced by a discharge petition that got 218 signatures. At least we think it's Tuesday. It might not be Tuesday by the time this gets posted, but um, this was led by Thomas Massey and some other Republicans to get it to the floor. Mike Johnson initially kind of acted like he wasn't going to, he was going to try to keep the government or the House shut down so that there wouldn't be a vote. Um, so we'll take a look at that. Will it get enough? Now, if it passes the House, it'll have to pass the Senate. So let's look at the vote in the Senate as well. And if it passes the House and the Senate, then it will go to the felon's desk where he can veto it. So you would need 290 House members to vote yes and 67 senators to vote yes to release them. And then if he vetoes it, they'd have to go back and override the veto with another series of votes, which probably would require another discharge petition, but it's theoretically possible. Um, so will he veto it? And then is this, and we're going to ordering Pam Bondi to investigate the Democrats. Is this a way for the DOJ just to say, we're not releasing these files because they pertain to an ongoing investigation? So we'll look at that as well. And if they are voted to be released and he does veto it, or he does um, the DOJ does exactly what I says, and they refuse to release them because they're saying that's part of an ongoing investigation. Will there be threats of impeachment? And we'll look at that. And then let's also look at the felon's mental and physical state as this all plays out, because this is kind of where I think uh, Epstein brings him down. So let's start with the vote in the House. Uh, so what do we need to know about the vote in the House of Representatives on releasing the Epstein files? It'll pass. That is not the question. The question is, will it get more than 290 votes, which I believe is 2/3 of 435. I should probably double check that, but certainly 300 is will it get enough votes to be able to override a veto? I think there are going to be a lot of people voting for this bill. Um, I don't think 300 is unreasonable. I think there'll be a lot of explaining to do if you vote against it. Yeah, it's inevitable. The Three of Wands. People see the writing on the wall. People also know that, the felon's time is limited. It just is. And so they're not willing to take the sword for him, so to speak. They're more willing to wound him, just figuratively, of course. Um, with the Five of Swords, it's also my card for dementia. I think they realize that his mental capacity is waning, and that he could turn on them at any minute, just like he turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene, which we'll look at as well. The Tower card. This is really going to shake things up. This is the moment where Republicans split from the felon. Um, he has a lot of anxiety about it. The Nine of Swords, the spies in the camp, the Page of Swords. We're always kind of wondering who the spies in the camp were. I think it's Thomas Massey, to be honest with you. Um, like forcing this to a vote is pretty substantial. emotional new beginnings. It's like a detachment of sorts, especially if he goes on to veto this, which we'll take a look at. Um, Everything's pointing in the same direction that this thing is going to pass. The Hierophant, which is about change as well, fives are about change. It's their second five. Uh, People are starting to realize that there is no future with him. MAGA doesn't transfer to the next person. It just doesn't. If he's willing to turn on Marjorie Taylor Greene and MAGA sticks with her, which is, seems to be what's happening, uh, how much power does he really have? People are mad. People are upset in this country, not just about Epstein, but about the economy more than anything. Um, and I think also people in the House know that other countries have this information, so they're really, it's going to come out one way or another. So I think it's inevitable. I think they will betray him, so to speak. And they're doing so knowing that the information is going to come out regardless. Everything's pointing to it to passing by a really big number. I think they betray him in such a way that it's overwhelming, like more than 300 is what it feels like. It feels like a veto proof majority. This is going to cause him to lash out because of his anxiety, but this is also the beginning of the separation because people aren't going to like being criticized for the way they voted on this when they ran on it. And people are going to be thinking about their higher selves, their own personal gain as well. So their political futures. It's a new beginning. The Ace of Pentacles, and we get victory underneath, and we get the Empress card, which is that female energy that's going to start to become prevalent as we move forward. So I think, it not only passes, it passes quite substantially. Um, Veto proof, I think so. I think it's veto proof. So what about the Senate then? It moves to the Senate. Will the Senate, will it pass the Senate? It's going to get all 47 Democrat votes. So it only needs 13 Republicans and then plus seven. So if it can get 27 Republicans, it would also be veto proof. I think there are a number of people that will vote for this as well. It's just about the vote in the Senate. First of all, it needs to be brought up for a vote. That's not a guarantee, but I think it will. Um, I think, I think, I think there are ways to force it up for a vote with the funding that's coming up again in January. So what do we need to know about the Senate vote? We need to know about the Senate vote. I I don't think they're quite there yet. On wanting to vote on it. If they vote on it, I think it'll get 67 votes. It's got to come up for a vote, the moon card. There's some volatility around here. But we also get the Hierophant, though. I think it can be forced to be voted on in January. If they haven't taken it up by then, I think the Democrats can force a vote on it with the funding bill. Um, yeah, they're still willing to do some bidding for him. This is a little bit different. If they don't bring it up for a vote, expect there to be a lot more losses. And I think that is in the 2026 election, that is. Now, Collins is probably going to lose anyhow. North Carolina's an open seat, but Ohio might become really competitive. Texas could become competitive. Iowa, that's an open seat as well. That's probably possibly Alaska could become competitive. So it could get pretty interesting. Yeah, firing messages coming out. Why won't you vote for this? Democrats hashing that over and over again. Um, Things working behind the scenes here. They're really lobbying hard to keep this from coming to a vote, I think. But ultimately, with the Lovers card, they're going to have to make a choice. This feminine energy from the Empress is really dominating the energies and will be for a while, and then circles of support. So if it comes up for a vote, and I do think that is a big if, it will pass. I do think it does. The question is how soon? Does it come up quickly, or does it have to wait until the Democrats force it in January? Um, I think he does have some support, but I think he will lose this vote. Choices will have to be made. Messages will be sent on how toxic this guy is. And that's really the key. I think the felon becomes so toxic, you know, unless he leaves the planet before all this happens, that, you know, people can't really stand with him. So people are going to think about themselves. They know that not voting for this is their downfall. Um, there's four major arcanas here. I guess the Ten of Swords isn't a major arcana, but it's a big card. Things going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of secret lobbying going on here. So underneath strength, and then we get loss. So I'm not entirely convinced that it comes up for a vote, but this year that is. Eventually it will, but whether it's this year or not is another story. So, but I do think that when it does come up for a vote, it passes. Okay. So will the DOJ say they can't release the documents because there's ongoing investigations? Just a yes or no here. Just a yes or no. Was that what that truth was all about? Um, let's see. It's a no card, but then we get judgment. The phone. Ooh, that's pretty dark. Um, Complete and utter downfall and judgment of the felon. I don't think they can. I think there's stuff in there that's really damning. Let's pull one more card. Death. Let's just go ahead and do a full spread here. Ill health. The Four of Swords. You can't make this stuff up. Stability. The Four of Pentacles. They're holding on to the secret very tightly. But emotional messages coming forward. The Knight of Cups. We're gonna have to wait. The Hanged Man and the seeds been planted. So they're not. I think they will hold it back as long as they possibly can until they're forced to release them. I don't think that's good for the felon. That's complete and utter downfall and judgment against him. Because he ultimately controls the DOJ. So, and they came out earlier and said, there's nothing to investigate here. There's no real files. There's nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. So, what's the truth, right? It doesn't make any sense. So, okay. So, I want to ask the question about impeachment and veto. Let's see. So, will he veto this bill? If he can, will he veto it? Yeah, will he veto this bill? Just yes or no? Yes. Uh, he will. He'll veto it. This is causing him a lot of health problems, though. It really is. Uh, but he'll veto it. I think he'll force a veto override. And then the DOJ won't release the documents, and he'll say it's because there's an ongoing investigation. And then they'll try to convince people to not vote for the veto override because of this ongoing investigation into Democrats. So, all right, will this lead to any? I keep seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene pushing for impeachment around this issue. And, sometimes you really shouldn't burn bridges. And I don't think you should burn her bridge but he did. Because I actually think she's crazy enough she doesn't care about anything. Um, but she cares about this issue. And she had some nice worded tweets too, with her feeling physical threats and saying how she can relate to the Epstein victims. I think she'll push for this. Now, I'm not sure exactly how that works if you can bring up a vote on impeachment by discharge, because Johnson certainly isn't going to get on board. I don't know what the laws are, how the law reads exactly. So um, the White House is going to have to defend itself. They'll have some support, the Three of Pentacles. They'll have protection with the Star card. They're definitely not going to impeach him and remove him. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be Republican senators that have him removed for not releasing the Epstein files. Now, if the Epstein files comes out and there's really horrible things, that's possible, but I still don't see it happening. Um, but it's possible. Definitely want to send a message here. We get loss. I think the threat might be there. I don't know that it moves forward. I don't think so. I think Mike Johnson has a way to block this. Um, the Nine of Wands. And then the Knight of Cups, emotional messages. If one plan doesn't work, try another. Expect there to be an impeachment when the Democrats take over, of course. Probably not for this, though. Probably for corrupt things like taking gifts from Switzerland in exchange for lowering tariffs and things along those lines. There's a lot of anxiety. They're worried about it, though. And the White House will have to defend themselves, explain why we're not getting what Congress voted for. There's a lot of anxiety about it. Uh, just feel like there's a lot of emotions here, but ultimately, I feel like he's protected or the country's protected. But regardless, even if they impeach him in the House, it's not going to get convicted in the Senate because he has his circles of support. They might want to just send a message, but the Eight of Pentacles here makes me think it doesn't happen. It's kind of if one plan doesn't work, try another. I think they just take it to the election. Um, I think, they rail against, I think there's a lot of infighting with Republicans. I think Johnson has a way of keeping this from not happening. Uh, there'll be some that'll be for it though, but I think it's delusional to think that it'll actually lead to him being removed. That's unfortunately just not going to happen. Whether it should or shouldn't is a different story, but it's not, and that's the important part. So, yeah. Okay. So how's this affecting his health and mental uh how's this affecting his mental and physical state? How's this affecting his mental and physical state? This is making him very angry. Um, I always thought that he gets angry right before he goes. Like the anger part is part of how it happens. Is this affecting his mental? it's quite taxing, the Ten of Wands. He's very much burdened by this. It's very overwhelming for him. Not that I feel any empathy or sympathy or towards him, because I don't. But he's this is taxing for him. I think he knows he's got this get out of jail free card with the DOJ just refusing to release them because of an ongoing investigation. I think that makes him feel a little bit better, but I also think he knows if it comes to that, it could get really ugly. Um, yeah, the Five of Swords is being wounded in battle. I mean, this is taking its toll on his health for sure. Lots of anxiety, a lot of sleepless nights. That's why we're getting these in the middle of the night tweets, although he's had sleepless nights forever. He's very unhealthy. Uh, Emotional messages. Expect there to be a lot of whininess from him, temper tantrums. Uh, this isn't shocking. It's just what we can expect. You do get death in the environment around. Death is swirling around, right? It's there. When it happens, I'm not sure, but it's sooner rather than later, right? It's not. We're not talking years out. Or at least I don't think so. Uh, this is a big moment. This is where his ego gets deflated because the cult that he's built just voted to say we not only disagree with you, but you know, um, it's endangering his livelihood because there's stuff in there that they clearly don't want out. Um, but yeah, he's gonna attack people. This is gonna make things worse. With the star card, I actually think this is for the country. So I think this is taking its toll on his mental and physical health. I think we'll see a lot of temper tantrums, but I do think there's protection for the country, so I don't think we need to be too scared. Um, it's a changing point. It's a turning point where Republicans actually stand up to him. He's not used to that, and it's going to feel like, a dagger to the heart, so to speak. And then he knows that they're not going to come out, or at least he thinks they're not going to come out, because he's got this trump card with, no pun intended, with the DOJ saying they can't release information on an ongoing investigation. And, but, death and anxiety are around. And this Knight of Swords reminds me of the galloping heartbeat that we talked about, that the right side's a little out of rhythm. Um, so here's just underneath here. Feels very isolated and alone. He doesn't really want to talk to people. He's already mad at the voters, and it's just a matter of time. The Hanged Man, because it's inevitable that the truth is going to come out. The Ace of Swords and the Three of Wands. So he can try whatever he wants. I've always thought that all this stuff comes out after he's gone. Uh, but we shall see. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.